Earlier this year, I bought my first gimbal, the Weebill Lab, which is a travel gimbal, kind of smaller payload. Towards the end of summer, Ronin announced a successor to their Ronin S gimbal called the Ronin SC. It seems to be better in every way, and my plan was to get it to replace the Weebill Lab. But then, Weebill came out with a successor to the Weebill Lab that is smaller, has a better payload capacity, and so here we are, today, now, 3 gimbals. I'm going to unbox these 2 new ones. I'm going to run tests on all 3 of them. And at the end of this video, we're gonna give away one of them. So let's get into it. Here is the Ronin SC. Let's check it out. We've got some various extra hardware for the gimbal, which you're gonna lose these little screws and these little locking mechanisms, so it's good to have extras. We've got a silica packet, these are very tasty. I recommend that you eat them. I believe this is the transmission cable to connect the gimbal to the camera, another USB-C to USB-C cable, and USB-A to USB-C, USB-C to USB, micro USB. Then we've got the tripod handle and some more tasty silica gel. It's got this nice like sandblasted rubber kind of feel to it. It's cool. The focus motor itself, which is pretty nice looking. We've got a phone holder, which also looks nicer than the Weebill Labs. Not to like rag on Juntech. Body of the gimbal, and then the actual gimbal itself. This thing is heavy duty. And we've got the mount, focus motor gear, lens support. There's a lot of little stuff that can get lost in this process. Holy hell, that was difficult, but there it is. The Ronin SC, and now the Weebill S. Ooh, all right. So first we've got all of our USB cables in one convenient box so they're not like sloppily strewn about the box. That's awesome. We've got the batteries conveniently placed face up right here. We've got our mount tripod, battery charger, mounting plate, and the gimbal. That is it. Pretty bare bones. Tripod handle in. Ooh, they got a new locking mechanism on this thing. Okay. Remember, that's the pan lock. We got the roll lock, and oh, there it is. Okay. Assembled. From what I can tell, the Weebill Lab and the Weebill S are the exact same body, so I feel like Juntech maybe reused the bodies from the Weebill Lab but put in stronger motors. So we're just gonna take this gimbal out of the equation. These are the gimbals we wanna test. So I'm gonna break this test down into categories, the first of which is gonna be setup. So how long does it take to get a camera balanced on these gimbals? Okay, I've got the GH5S right here. No in-body image stabilization. This will be our camera for this test, so let's try it out. So all in all, I'd say that neither of them were like crazy difficult to balance. The Weebill S was noticeably less difficult though. With the Ronin, the same tension dial, the same screw controls the back and forth motion on the sled and the sideways motion on the sled, which made things really difficult. It's just kind of harder to gauge what's wrong with the balance on the Ronin, whereas with the Weebill, it's completely obvious. I gotta give the actual setup points to Weebill. Now let's get into the apps and see what's going on there. So we're connecting to the Ronin and we're all connected. Now, what's recommended is that you run a auto tune, which will basically tune the gimbal to your camera and how it's balanced. Okay, the gimbal is now auto-tuned. Now the coolest stuff in the Ronin app can be accessed through this create button, where we now see virtual joystick, active track, force mobile, which is really cool, panorama, time lapse, track, and camera settings. So I'm gonna go through these one by one. First, we have the virtual joystick, which we can use to control the camera from the phone. Then we have Active Track Pro, which basically I can mount my phone to the top of this camera and then use the camera on my phone to track myself as a subject, and it'll move the gimbal to track me. Force Mobile is awesome. So when I click enable here, it's going to follow the movements of my phone. Now, it's not perfect, but definitely a cool ass feature. Okay, time lapse. This is really cool because it basically gives you motion control features. To do that, you need a motion control head, maybe even a slider. That shit costs so much money. This gimbal doesn't even break $500, and it can enable me to shoot a time lapse that moves around a scene. Then we've got track. So you can basically plan a route along 10 keyframe positions. So let's say that this is like my starting position, and let's say that this is our second waypoint, and then let's make it face this camera right here. I'm pretty sure that I can adjust focus on this, so I think that's all good to go, but let's try it out. That's pretty dope. Now it didn't actually pull focus there. Can it record the focus wheel? If not, that's kind of a pain in the ass. All right, and then we can actually access the camera's settings from within the app. So we've got shutter speed, aperture, exposure mode, ISO, and focus speed. I would have to take off a point for the lack of focus control in the track feature, but I give the app portion like a 9 for the Ronin SC. Really cool stuff. So this is the updated ZY Play app. The previous one sucked big fat donkey nogs, but they've promised that this one is better. So let's check out what we have available to us. First, let's go to motor calibration. All right, this is a very confusing setup. Let's see if we can just auto calibrate. What are these buttons and what do they mean? Oh, we've got force mobile. It is not as good. Okay, so we can do time lapse and then trajectory photography. What is that? I don't even know what that is. Oh, so it's pretty much like the track feature. Can I make focus motor tracking? See if this works. Oh, hey. Tight. So we are matching the track feature. I don't believe we can set focus motor points. Furthermore, the focus motor on the gimbal seems to suck. I'm surprised there's not more to this app, to be honest with you. The DJI app just has a whole lot better ease of use. I can see where things are, everything's labeled, there's info about everything. Definitely gonna have to give the edge in the app department to the Ronin SC. Okay, so in order to test out these two gimbals, I basically performed a series of different types of shots. Both of these gimbals have an overslung and an underslung mode, with the Weebill obviously having the better underslung mode where it has that sort of briefcase mode, but Ronin does underslung as well. And here's what I've found. First of all, with truck shots, with whether you're overslung or you're underslung, truck shots are very difficult on gimbals because you can't control the back and forth motion. The gimbal is gonna move forward and backward the entire time that I'm trucking. So if my subject that I'm trucking alongside is really close to the gimbal, it's gonna be much more noticeable, all this back and forth movement. I think it's just the nature of gimbals is that they're not gonna control a close subject along that horizontal forwards and backwards axis. Both of these gimbals performed super well in terms of dolly shots. So right now I'm looking at the Weebill S dolly shot and it was pretty steady. There was obviously some micro jitters going on with the Weebill S, and I think that was just given over to the fact that it's a smaller gimbal, it's a travel gimbal. And then if we go and we check out these Ronin dollies, they're pretty smooth both for underslung and overslung. It's just smooth. It just looks really smooth and cinematic. Now let's look at these whip pans. I would say that the Weebill has a lot of trouble moving horizontally across the whip pan motion. I would frequently have it go like up a little bit because it was reacting so tightly to tilt movements when that phone go button was pressed. But overall, it was a pretty stable whip pan for being just this tiny gimbal. And then on the Weebill, we had the option of an underslung whip pan, which I feel like would be much more difficult to pull off with the Ronin, or it just wouldn't look as tight. I would say that the Ronin came a lot closer to like whip pans I've seen on a Steadicam with a Steadicam operator. Like, it's just a little bit smoother and it just makes it all the more cinematic in terms of the motion of the camera. Now, if I was gonna throw the camera into a high frame rate and then slow it down in post, I would get a lot smoother motion out of both of these gimbals, but I really wanted to stress test them to see, can I get just normal frame rate, native frame rate, smooth cinematic shots? And I would say that when that's the criteria we're judging on, the Ronin SC comes out heads and shoulders above the Weebill. It's just so much more obvious that it's a small setup. It's just a little bit more shaky. It's a little bit more jittery. It moves too quickly. There's a lot of things about it that just give off that it's a gimbal. With the Ronin, it's hiding a lot more of my inexperience. Now, lastly, let's go to these macro shots and see what we got. So I'm looking at the Weebill macro dolly, and this is actually in slow-mo, so it's kind of cheating, but I use slow motion with both gimbals, so it's all things equal. And I'm missing focus in like a lot of these shots because the Weebill's focus wheel, as we know from the previous test, is just not very responsive. So that was a major pain in the ass. The orbit with the Weebill it's quite obvious when the gimbal is making its reactions to my panning. Not optimal. Let's look at the Ronin macro dolly and orbit. The Ronin didn't perform much better than the Weebill when it came to these macro shots. Like, there are moments in these shots where I can take usable footage, but the overall clips are not just out of the box usable. I will say that the Ronin does handle the orbit a whole lot better. It doesn't have that sort of truck and then jerk. Definitely thankful for that. And with the focus wheel, like doing these macro shots, it's much more necessary to have the Ronin's control over the focus wheel. So I'm gonna have to give these macro shots the edge to the Ronin SC as well. While the Ronin is a major pain in the ass to balance, it's kind of worth it for what you get in performance. One final test that I did run was trying to put the GH5 with the Metabone Speed Booster and the Sigma 18-35 lens on each of these gimbals. It's definitely a heavy setup, so most gimbals can't handle it, especially travel size gimbals. Now, I was able to get it balanced on the Ronin SC, but I did have to use a counterweight on top of the camera. By the time that I get back here, this little motor is bumping up against the back of the camera, but on the Weebill, I was able to get this combo balanced without a counterweight, and I was able to even tilt it forward enough to kind of use it. I could use it fully. I couldn't throw it into briefcase mode because that would bring the motor over the camera and it just didn't have enough clearance. I mean, that's no small advantage, right? Like, the fact that I can't use that combo on the Ronin SC is a major drawback to this gimbal, and it gives the Weebill S serious points. But overall, I'd have to give all of these tests to the Ronin SC. The Ronin SC is just more sturdy. The auto-tune feature makes it very easy to use out the box and get maximum smoothness out of your motor settings. It results in usable footage, and that's really what you want out of a gimbal. Can I easily get really usable, smooth footage out of the gimbal? Out of these two gimbals, the Ronin SC takes the cake there. Last night, I'm on my phone and Cinema 5D publishes a news article about the Ronin S and Ronin SC firmware update. With this update comes a few really important and noteworthy things. Most shockingly is that they now allow you to use a PS4 or an Xbox wireless controller to control the gimbal. Oh, that's tight. Oh, that's cool. Oh, what's this? The Weebill Lab. What I want to do with this is, instead of sell it, I want to give it to someone who is going to get a lot of use out of it. In the description of this video and right here, I'm going to put a link that will go to somewhere where you can apply to win this gimbal. What I'd like you to do is let me know how you plan to use it. Are you going to make music videos? Are you going to make short films? What do you need it for? What types of shots do you feel like you can't get without it? And I'd love to see some examples of some work that you've done without a gimbal. Now, since I don't know when I'm gonna be able to actually get this review out, this contest will begin on this date, and I will stop accepting submissions and applications on this date. So I will review all the applications after that and announce a winner. If you did not win, I'll send you an email letting you know, and also keeping you up to date on any future contests that we run. And one lucky winner will receive this here Weevil Lab gimbal, all ready to go. Hopefully I did this review some justice. Now I'm gonna go and play with this. If you like this video, please like and consider subscribing. We drop content like this all the time, and we frequently have some pretty cool contests for you guys as well. And if you do, I'll see you in that next video. Peace out.